Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a communist country. For a modest family like hers, living under a totalitarian regime meant getting very creative with very little resources. The electricity would go out every evening, and they would have to queue for hours in the freezing cold for a small piece of bread. Despite everything, the little girl was as happy as she could be. Surrounded by her family and her friends, she created her own world, where none of the tragic events unfolding around her existed. She would enter the fabulous kingdom of creativity every evening, because no electricity meant candlelight. And you know, candlelights are magic. They sparkled her imagination and allowed her to draw the most amazing stories using her hands and the shadows on the wall. Until one day, before turning 6, the little girl started school. Feeling that she should share the fruits of her artistic passion with the world, she decided to bring her creative drawings into the classroom. She was laughed at by her classmates, and the teacher said that this could not be the work of a child. "This nonsense has to stop immediately," said the teacher, slapping her face in front of her colleagues. Or otherwise, she would report her and her family to the authorities, and they would all end up in prison. You see, drawings like hers were a real threat to the Communist Party's ideology, because they represented what communism despised the most, namely the freedom of speech and expression. Deeply hurt by the teacher's reaction and very much afraid that she would put her family in great danger, the little girl decided that day to kill creativity. And as of then, she would self-censor the shape of her art and the size of her dreams. The wonderful castles and the magical creatures would turn into gray, dark, communist industrial buildings. And for the years to come, she would do everything to just fit in, secretly hoping to escape this prison-like environment one day. Years later, the opportunity to embark on an extraordinary journey presented itself. The grown-up girl decided to take a big step and moved to a faraway land with beautiful mountains and crystal-clear lakes. Her heart was filled with joy. Leaving the past behind, she felt that everything was possible again. However, upon her arrival, the beautiful landscapes started slowly fading away, unveiling a cold world inhabited by very critical people. It soon became clear that her experience and her diplomas were worthless in this new world. She was mercilessly judged as a second-hand citizen who did not belong there. Rejected and alone, she felt very sad. The same sadness she felt when she was 6, and she decided to kill creativity. Was this how freedom was supposed to taste? Was this the ultimate proof that she is not going to fit anywhere? Tortured by her self-mistrust and poisoned by a sense of bitter resignation, she stopped the contact with the outside world, rarely leaving her apartment and barely talking to anybody. Her existential anxiety became so present, she wished herself dead. And then it happened. That terrible feeling of despair lit up a colossal fight response inside her. She came to the sudden recognition that her life could not end up like this. It was an epiphany-like moment that made her realize that it is time to start believing that magic can happen, with or without candlelights. It was time to acknowledge that life is not about fitting in. And ever since that day, she let her creativity run wild and went on to create wonderful things and live the life she always wanted to, This girl grew up to be the woman standing in front of you today. And I'm standing here because I would like to share an important message and the moral of my story. Creativity is the world's most underrated resource. We need to stop killing it. As you've seen in my story, creativity saved me twice. As a child, it kept me safe from the gruesomeness of communism. As a young immigrant, it gave me the confidence to start making bold decisions, like becoming a working mother in Switzerland or being an entrepreneur. Judgment days, similar to the ones I have experienced, are happening every day, all over the world. Billions of noble ideas and extraordinary dreams are crushed, preventing people of all ages, colors, and nationalities to fulfill their potential. So the question is, how can we stop this? How can we invite more creativity into our lives? A few years ago, I came across a fascinating research on human behavior done by Stanford professor B.J. Fogg. He argues that only 3 things can change human behavior on the long run. Option A, have an epiphany. Option B, change your environment. Or option C, take baby steps. I wish I knew this 20 years ago. It turns out that making very small changes and repeating them daily eventually lead to lasting, incredible results. So if you would like to join me, bring more creativity into the world, here is a tiny habit recipe. Commit to perform a daily creative act for 5 minutes, ideally right after an existing habit, and congratulate yourselves with a well done said out loud afterwards. Starting tomorrow, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, imagine you're a superhero. What would your superhero do? What would he or she say? Which adventures would they embark on if they would have all the time and resources in the world? Or maybe you're not into reflective toothbrushing. How about spending the time in the morning when waiting for the bus or commuting by train? Look outside the window at something you see every day. It can be a building, a tree, a street sign. It doesn't matter. Imagine it through a different light. You will be surprised where creativity can take you if there is no judgment and there are no limits. If you make creativity a habit by staying true to your creative daily act, you will stop trying to find yourselves in the craziness of everyday life. You will start experiencing playfulness, wonder, beauty, and love in ways unseen before. You will gently retrain your brain to look at the world with childlike wonder again. You will start finding creative solutions to your life's most pressing challenges. And the best thing of all that creative energy you will be generating will be continuously released into the world, making it a much better place. Thank you all very much.